Hello America by J.G. Ballard, I think, is one of his novels that's for fans only. If you have not read J.G. Ballard before, I don't think this is a good place to start. Rather, you should probably start with one of his early disaster novels, The Wind from Nowhere, The Drowned World, The Burning World, or The Crystal World, or one of his two short story collections from that period, which I think are The Terminal Beach and The Four Dimensional Nightmare. They give a really good introduction to his surrealist style of writing. Hello America fails because I think J.G. Ballard was trying to achieve too much with it. What he wanted to do was pastiche a deserted and desertified United States of America. There's been an energy crisis because fossil fuels have run out. This was written in the 1980s, and I think Ballard was extrapolating from the fuel crisis, the oil crisis of the 1970s, and he's taken that into the future. And fossil fuels have become unavailable, and also renewables, which he does discuss, interestingly, don't fill the gap in his world. And so, literally, the lights get turned off in America and people start deserting the nation. And then there's an attempt at geoengineering, which works wonderfully for Europe, but fails disastrously for the United States, which is now essentially deserted. And the east and central sides of the continent become utter desert, like the Sahara Desert. And then on the other side of the Rockies, you have verdant jungle. And into that world, Ballard sends an expedition to find out what's going on in this new empty America. The book is full of some great scenes that the members of the expedition come across. There's a wonderful scene involving every single president of the United States recreated as a robot, as members of the audience of kind of a lounge show in this jungle Las Vegas, which is really good fun. And he also imagines enormous 500-foot, 1,000-foot holograms of Hollywood icons striding about in the desert around the Rockies as well, which is quite gripping. And then he has steam cars because, of course, gasoline's run out, so they reinvent the steam car. He has steam cars racing across the desert. But the problem with the novel for me is that none of the characters who populate it are particularly endearing. I don't feel any empathy with them. I don't resonate with their problems and concerns. I think they're very introverted, as many of Ballard's characters are. They have small concerns which amplify the world in which they live, or the triviality of the world in which they live. And of course, this is Ballard trying to capture and encapsulate the kitschness of America in this post-apocalyptic vision of his. And it doesn't really work. Even the main character, who's a young man who was a stowaway on the ship that lands in this sand dune filled New York, isn't really engaging. And even his quest to find his father, he isn't very interested in the result of that quest by the time that he resolves it. And so it's difficult for me as the reader to feel any empathy either. And so I think for me, that's where it fails. The characters don't have the necessary empathy and we don't feel for them enough. And also, I think Ballard is just too ambitious in his goals of trying to pastiche, what this kind of future America might look like. And so, if you're a fan of his, go ahead. You may enjoy it. But for everybody else, steer clear of this. Read his early stuff first and then come back to this much later.